personally, this is just me, I'm not going to take a listing if they're not going to pay a buyer broker agreement. I don't care if it's $2 million. I don't care if it's 500, 100,000. I'm not going to take it.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today's guest is a top producing agent who started his career with one of the top producing real estate teams in Northeast Florida before going out on his own. First quarter of 24, he had 27 closed or pending units, a huge start to this turbulent year. His claim is his unwavering commitment to integrity, transparency, and personalized service is the cornerstone of his success. It's Christmas in July with Christmas Homes Jacks. Let's welcome Luke Christmas to the show.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks
so
for having
playing
me.
On the Christmas theme that we were just talking about there a little bit. Yes. But Luke, great to have you on. Yes. So I don't know how somehow you've flown below my radar because I've had a lot of Keller Williams Land Partners people on at one time or another. Yeah. Maybe it's because you were under the Rocco team umbrella there for a long time. Yeah. But I do troll social media. Yeah. And generally when I see people, hey, I did $1 million, or I think you had March, you did 3 point something, right? They had a great March. Then all of a sudden I go, maybe I need to have that person on, and then I start researching you and see, what production. But having lunch with you yesterday, I am really excited about the show today because I really want to, I think you being a young person, we have a lot of great young people in the industry. We have a lot of great young people starting, but are they on the right path? Right. And I think you were fortunate enough to land under Sarah Rocco's tutelage there, and I think it's made all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely, man. She really set the kind of the tone for my career, so I started in the right place.
Yep, 100%. I kick off the show always just get a little background on you. Where are you from?
So from Tallahassee, Florida, originally born and raised. Grew up there for 18 years, and then, like we talked about a little bit, moved to California for about 3 years as a college athlete. Moved back to Florida, lived in the Tallahassee region for like a year, and then me and my brother moved to Jacksonville.
So let me get this. So you went to California because they were looking at you to play football?
So kind of a...
Even though you're 6'6"?
6'7", all right.
6'7", okay. I was close.
Yeah. They always put like 6'9" on the roster.
Right.
They look a little scary.
The basketball team wasn't looking for you?
They looked at me too, but I loved football. I loved the physicality. I loved the, I don't know, just like getting in the dirt and being physical I loved it. I loved hitting. I loved the sport. The strategy. So I came out of high school when I was 6'7", 18-year-old. So it was really hard for me to gain weight, and I didn't totally fill out my frame, and I wasn't fully developed, and I wanted to play big time D1 football. So I picked Butte in Northern California because I was a tight end. The offense fit me, everything fit me, and they were a junior college. So the plan was to go there, play for 2 or 3 years, and then scholarship out, to a bigger school.
So you didn't sell out to Florida State is really what I would map.
Did not sell out to Florida State. No, ironically, I'm a massive Gator fan, so I didn't even call them, both my parents in the University of Florida, but yeah, that's kind of the route I went.
Well, so as a young person, obviously you majored, I didn't even see whichever major was, I might have glanced over that on LinkedIn. What were you thinking about, as possible career things that you want to do?
Oh, like any young man, I really had no idea. So I was like, well, I'm going to play football, and that's going to pay for it, and then we'll figure it out from there. Right. So really, I was in business administration, super broad, degree. I figured I would end up in some sales of some sort, right? I knew I liked working with people. I knew I liked learning people's stories, and I was good with people. I always had been from a young age. So I had no idea what that looked like at all in college. So it was kind of up in the air. Real estate was not even a part in my mind at this time. Right.
So now your LinkedIn, you go from graduating college to basically on the calendar, 2 years later, you joined Sarah Rocco's team at Keller Williams.
Correct.
Just kind of fumbling around for 24 months? What'd you do?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I had a lot of fun. So I suffered a couple injuries in football, which ultimately took me out, concussion, spinal things going on. So that's what took me out of that path. I moved home and, was really just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, still continuing with my degree. And then me and my brother were like, where do we want to move? We were living on a family farm at this time in a very, very small town in the Panhandle of Florida. I was like, okay, I can't do this forever.
Right.
Where do we want to go? So we kind of threw around Orlando, Jacksonville, whatever. I was like, hey, Jacksonville has a beach. A bunch of my friends are in grad school there. It looks fun. Let's go there.
Right.
And that was sheerly the motivation. Moved to Jacksonville, and I'm in the service industry, bartending weddings. I worked for beachside buggies down at the beach, just having a great time, surfing. And then life changes occurred. Figured out I was going to be a dad. And I was like, okay.
Oh, yes, wow.
Big change. I was like, okay, all right, I can't bartend and, raise a child anymore, so something has to change now. So at the time, I was getting my real estate license, not for just to have it, really, just for the knowledge. I had no anticipation of getting into real estate full time. I didn't even know people did real estate full time. I thought it was just like something that
kind of a friend threw you in that direction, or where did the actual thought though come up?
Not really. Oh, actually, I guess a friend at work. When I was bartending, I knew a friend at work, and she did real estate on the side, and she would do like one deal a month maybe. And I was like, wow, like she's making like $50K a year off one deal a month. I can do that, and that's some extra income, right? And then through Beachside Buggies, I met Russell Nicholson. He's now the team leader down in St. Augustine. And Russell's like, hey, come talk to me. I was like, okay. So I met Russell, and Russell kind of showed me what he was doing in the world of real estate. He was a buyer's agent for Sarah at the time. And I looked at, how much money he made. I was like, okay, that sounds good. Let's do real estate. So really, it was just, at this time, it was just, hey, this will provide for my family. It's a good amount of money. This will work. And he introduced me to Sarah at that time.
I am going to actually just mention our sponsor, and we'll get back in here. One of my Remy Graphics, which they will make one-off Christmas gifts for you with these lasers engravings. They actually do little things. I actually think, and what you can do to make it even better, so it doesn't just say, would you say you had on your Christmas homes?
Florida.
Put John and Sally, thanks Christmas Homes.
That's
and
sweet.
actually personalize it. So she'll make one-offs. This is obviously just a mug. She puts my graphic on it. I got her graphic. There's one of them in that bag for you.
Awesome.
But RemyGraphics.com. They're local here in Nassau County. Check out our website, and if you mention the Real Estate Excellence Podcast, you'll save 10%.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
But yeah, we were talking about little gifts and stuff. The more you personalize it too, they're never going to throw that away. And if you put their name on it, that'll hang on their tree for the next 25 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They'll feel so bad to throw it away at that point.
Exactly. All right, so we're 2019. We've got a father-to-be.
Yes.
I saw on your Facebook, obviously you get engaged there.
Correct.
All this time, in between the baby and engaged, you are getting licensed.
Pretty stressed out at this time. I have a certain amount of money in the bank, and I'm making bartender money, which isn't going to support a family. So getting licensed, really just hitting the ground running at that point. And I'm a terrible test taker. So believe it or not, I had to take the real estate exam 3 times, the state exam. So take it the first time, totally confident. I was like, I passed that. Fail it by 2 questions. Take it the second time, I was like, yeah, I failed that. Fail it. Take it the third time, I was like, I definitely failed that. Pass it. Ended up getting licensed, I think, in August of 2019.
Because you have to wait was it 30 days?
I think it was 30 days. Yeah.
You have to, and then after so many times, you have to wait a year or something, don't you? If you fail it,
I was stressed.
You're stressed on the year waiting part.
Yeah.
How do you run into Sarah Rocco, or did you actually talk to anyone else? How does this actually happen? You get linked up with her? Yeah,
so working at my job, Beachside Buggies, which is a blast, literally just a taxi service down at the beach, is a great way to meet people, which is how I met Russell Nicholson. He was part owner of that company at the time. And I knew he was in real estate, so I asked him, I was like, hey, I heard you're in real estate, love to talk to you about it. And he's like, yeah, talk to me. So me and him had lunch at the Southside office, and he kind of showed me what he was doing, from a production standpoint to a financial standpoint mostly. And I was like, okay, this could work. I can do this full time, and this can support my family. So that was really enticing for me. So he ultimately introduced me to Sarah at that point, because he was Sarah's only buyer agent, I think, at the time. So that's how I got linked up with her.
Okay, so he was already with Sarah himself.
Yes,
okay, all right. One of the things I think we talk about a lot on the show is the importance of finding that right place. Obviously, looking back and where you're at now, the stars lined up for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Obviously, that doesn't happen to a lot of agents. And I think that's why a lot of agents never renew and why 80% are out within the first 2 years,
right.
if not the first couple of months, because we just know when they don't renew,
right.
is when that statistic comes out. Right. The importance of finding that place. And obviously, that place worked for you. Mm-hmm. Not saying that others wouldn't have worked. And you may have been able to match up with any other broker. And just because your personality, your go-gettingness, your entrepreneur, whatever characteristics you want to, how you describe yourself, you may have been successful anywhere, because there are agents that are like that.
Right.
But I think, as we know, 80%, it's not.
Right.
And matching up and finding, when you look back now, going back to 2019 and the years that you spent with Sarah there, I mean, how that's changed your business. Do you think you would be even anywhere near as successful if it wasn't for that matchup and that atmosphere, that culture that Sarah created?
No, not at all. Not at all. And one of her biggest things was like, hey, don't reinvent the wheel. That's a huge Keller Williams thing. Literally, she gave me the foundation of this business. I don't know how long that would have taken to learn everything I learned under her. 5, 10, 15 years. I have no idea. So
right.
she gave me everything on a silver platter, and how everything works from the systems, from the how to talk to different personalities, how to analyze different personalities, everything. So no, I mean, it was to me a total God thing that I got linked up with her.
What little I've known, obviously Sarah was on the show a couple years ago. Her very regimented thing, we talked about it a little bit. You said, she had some people crying.
Myself.
Why am I doing this? Yeah, right. Exactly. Everyone goes through that stage, but everyone who sticks with, so it was almost like just a real focused classroom, or boot camp, or whatever how you want to describe it. If you just got up every day and stuck with it, she was teaching you, but also I think we all, just in human nature, wouldn't have been so disciplined upon ourselves.
Not at all. Not even close. I mean, it's just like just like football,
mm-hmm.
right? If I didn't have those people, those coaches in my face every day, day in and day out to push me.
Take another rep.
Right. Take another rep. Do another sprint, whatever. It takes the same thing, right? If I didn't have that backing behind me, there's no way I would have made it through year one. No way. Without her and Samantha Cox, for sure, both pushing me every single day.
Right.
There's no way. Right.
Teams is a big subject. I was at a mastermind last month. It's a fairly consistent subject that I talk about, because when you talk about a team, there's many different ways to describe it. We were talking a little bit about yesterday, whether it's Melissa Ricks at Keller Williams, we know Christina Welch, Sarah's the late Sarah Rocco's team, which team is still active today. And CC Underwood, just named 4 teams right there that are all Keller Williams Atlantic partners,
right.
are all done differently.
Right.
And I think they take on somewhat of the personality of obviously the leader, as obviously they're doing it the way they want to, but Sarah's team was just so unique in my eyes. When you look at the other, you've been out there long enough now. You've seen, whether they're with Keller Williams or Coldwell Banker or wherever, how these teams are run. You really start to probably appreciate what she was doing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was compared to what I've seen, every team is run differently. Every team gives different value and gives different opportunities, but she ran such a tight ship. Like most teams that I see are, it's like pretty much like, hey, we're just here together and we're gonna have fun. Kind of thing, It's like, well, you can have fun all you want, but if you're not producing, it's not very fun.
Yeah, the fun ends at some
point. Exactly. You still have to produce to have the fun.
The sun comes up the next day, and you're like, I have no money in my pocket, and where am I?
I appreciated the regimen. I appreciated the structure.
Yeah.
Obviously sometimes it got on my nerves, and we butted heads and things like that. But no, like I said, it really set up the expectations I needed to set for myself for the future after the team even. So
let's talk about some of those foundational things that obviously you still do today. Samantha said, talk about your time blocking. I imagine that's something Sarah, everybody was on some sort of schedule that they were creating, but go through like the core things that you are doing today that you took right from being on the team? I mean, day one when you went out on your own, you were already, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few things, and time blocking is one of the biggest things, right? So when I was on the team, every Sunday before, like, I forgot what time it was, 6 p.m., we had to send our full calendar for the next week to Sarah, right? So she could analyze it and make sure we're doing everything. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist, right? So I kept that moving into as a solo agent, and when I was a productivity coach for a little bit, was every Sunday or Saturday prior to the week, time blocking every single thing that I had to do the next week, starting with the things that are most important to me, which is time with my family, church, and my quiet time, and my health, right? And then next would come business and things like that. Something I'm passionate about and still do today. And, when a new agent approaches me and they say, hey, how do I close 10 million in a year, whatever, I'm like, let me check your calendar. And they're like, okay. I'm like, does this look like someone that closed 10 million a year? And they're like, no. And I'm like, all right.
So she's literally had you from the time you wake up.
Yeah.
Whether it's, 30 minutes to get ready, shower, or whatever, that's on your calendar.
Every single thing.
Every single thing.
Yeah. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I get sloppy.
Yeah.
Things get busy. Life gets to you. But I try.
Well, that's really not the point of it is not, the point of it is that you're consciously thinking or being reminded you need to be doing this now.
Right. Exactly.
And I think people, if they did the schedule, the first thing is like, oh, well, what if I go over it? That's not the point.
Right.
The point is you are focused on these things because you got to get something done by the end of the day or end of the week, whatever it is, and you got to spend so much time on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And understanding, like, I used to tell her all the time, hey, I'm so busy. I can't get anything done. I'm so busy. And she would say, let me look at your calendar. And I'm like, she's like, what is all this white space? What's going on here? I'm like, I honestly don't even know. She's like, all right, here's what I want you to do. Take all the hours a week and then tell me what you're doing with each, set of hours. So she would literally make me take every hour in the week, like sleep, 8 hours a night, eat an hour a day, whatever it might be. And then always I would have like 40 leftover hours. She's like, where are these 40 hours going? I'm like, I have no idea. She's like, all right, time block better. And I'm like, okay, sounds good.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would imagine I know some of these teams have some turnover.
Yeah.
In your experience there, I mean, a lot of people don't want that. Whether they're 23 just out of college or they're 53, they don't want that kind of regimen.
Yeah.
And especially someone, we like to say, she was your boss, but I mean, you were 1099, right? Does that not mean you could go out on your own? You didn't have to be on her team,
sure.
But you found out, obviously there must have been something. You said you had a tough first year. There was something there. You're like, I got to keep going. I'm going to take on this challenge of the Sarah Rocco team.
Yeah. Well, it was mostly just becoming a father, and like that was the only option. There was I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have a plan C, which was not a good thing. I probably should have had a plan B and plan C, but that I was willing to feel the burn, because of that. It was life or death. It was, that's what I tell. I make that joke all the time.
You didn't have the time to change jobs.
No, I didn't have time to change jobs or teams or start a new process. Again, like young guys ask me, like, how did you do this and this in 2 years? I'm like, well, you just got to get your girlfriend pregnant. And like, you will be successful, man. I tell you what. But seriously, it put a fire in me like I've never felt before, and I didn't have an option to quit. So that was, a very painful time in my life and very stressful and hard, but it pushed me to be who I am today.
Well, I mean, if I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, if I recall, Sarah was out kind of in that same position herself when she got started. And there's been a lot of agents. Jordan Ferreira is another one. She can go back to a crazy
story.
Yeah. I mean, she said she literally was paycheck to paycheck and probably wrote some bad checks, when she got started, and having 3 boys at the same, pretty much one right after another. I think, I don't know if she might have been even younger than you are right now. When she got started. And sometimes it takes that. I mean, I think a lot of people tell great stories when they feel they've been hit the bottom.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Of the barrel, so to speak. All right. So time blocking was one of them.
Yeah. Time blocking. After that, it's probably, and I don't want to say systems, but I mean, it really probably is. So for example, CRM, right? I use Command. We were at Follow Up Boss on Sarah's team, but having my CRM and then having every contact in my CRM, I think I have 700, 800 people in there. Every single person either has a task to follow up or they're on some sort of smart plan to follow up. Every single one, right? So every day I go in from 9 to 11 and I do those tasks every single day, day in and day out.
Let's take, to me, the CRM. Whoever has a CRM, obviously here where I work at Town Bank, we have a CRM. Every real estate company, that's part of their thing.
Right.
And I think you may agree, although you probably may not have any plans to leave Keller Williams, but you may also want to have some way to download, or you're regularly downloading your CRM to your own personal drive. Because should you close the door at that, you don't want to lose us. Just put that out there.
Yeah.
But the CRM is like our phones, are like the computers that we have, are like our brain. We are only using a very small percentage of what the capabilities of these things are, and they're getting stronger and stronger every day.
Exactly. Yeah.
The regiment of understanding. I mean, something Sarah did, or maybe at Keller Williams, where the focus being on the CRM, you're in it every day, right?
Correct.
And then everyone you're talking to, the discipline to put that name in there and put it on some sort of follow-up. I mean, how important is it? Like, I mean, as a young, you obviously on Sarah's team, you did that from day one.
Yeah.
And then, look where you're at now. Right. So the tip to someone out there listening right now, if you are not,
following up,
if you're not putting that person in your CRM right now every day, and then how many different lunch and learns, trainings, I mean, how regularly were you guys talking about, hey, okay, here's a CRM, here's something else we can do with it.
Right. Here's one more way to reach out to this person. Here's one more way to stay top of mind, right?
Using the tool you have right here.
Right.
Yeah.
All it is building relationships. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Being strategic in the way you follow up, the way you reach out to these people and stay top of mind. But that was, again, day one. We had a WIG session with her, widely important goal session with her every week. And we would go through every single lead that we had in our CRM and say, where is this person at? Why aren't there notes in here?
So you were getting up to several hundred and have to go through every single one?
No. Once we got to several hundred and we were at the point where we're closing 4 to 6 deals a month, we wouldn't go through every single
Cheesed off on you, pulled off the pedal a little bit.
Yeah. So I had to have some hard conversations before that. But I was like, Sarah, these meetings can't take 3 hours, We got 30 minutes. So no, but again, just kind of instilled those little monotonous things in my mind. I'm like, hey, this is how you become successful, is doing these little boring things every single day.
I know I would hate that right away. My immediate thought when you said, "Oh, we're having this session, we got to go through every person," I'm thinking, okay, I'm creating a spreadsheet and I've got these 10 or 20 that are hot right now that I'm regularly either working actively list, and then I've got this couple hundred here that are just on some campaign I'm touching. So I would just hand her the spreadsheet and say, okay, 1 through 20, here's what's going on. The other, they're all in the CRM on a follow-up.
Right. That probably would have been an easier way to do it. But she was on it, though. She's like, how are you following up with these people? How are you talking to them?
But how did that, I think anyone listening to it can immediately visualize themselves sitting down with their boss, and we've all been on these calls or these sales meeting calls where everyone they go through, hey, who are you working with this week? And it's a monotonous thing, but I think you would solely agree that, it's changed your entire trajectory. It's changed the entire trajectory of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's changed, my life, my children's lives, my wife's lives. It's changed everything.
Right.
Yeah, so I can't imagine where I would be without that discipline up front, right? And I totally get it now, because it was also a piece of it was like, hey, this is my business and I'm letting you in on it. And I'm giving you the opportunity to be a part of my business, so you're going to do it the right way, right? So now that I have my own business and I'm growing Christmas Homes, I totally understand that. Now I'm like, hey, this is a business that I brought from the ground up. It's my baby, and we're going to do it the right way.
You're a new agent, and you that first day, you like you said, you had a rough first year. Well, I want to talk about that because I think everyone has to fight through that as they learn the business. Yeah. But in this case, you partnered up. You got into a culture where, I imagine the team was larger and smaller at different times because people roll out. They just, don't stick with it.
Sure.
But Sarah was your mentor. Sarah was your coach, and she was on it. And I don't know if you can find another Sarah Rocco in town. I don't know if there is one. There might be. But you need to, new agents out there, find someone like that. That's one, huge accountability.
Right.
Right? An uncomfortable accountability.
Yeah.
But again, people ask you all the time, what do I need to do to get where you're at now?
Right.
And you kind of tell them, they're like, do I want to do that or not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you really put is this something you really want to be in, right? And then, again, people's like, what did you do? I'm like, you have to find someone that is wildly successful and that's going to pour into your life and hold you to the fire every single day. Because even as that person, because I have a couple guys that I'm accountable for, I don't like doing that. I want to be their friend, but no, I have to. That's my job, is to hold them accountable to their goals and what they want to do, because I want them to see them as successful as well. So,
all right. So time blocking, CRM, religiously updating it, making sure everyone's on some sort of scheduled campaign, or you're actively working with them right now. Right. What else?
I would say tracking your numbers, tracking your conversions. What's working, what's not working. This is kind of where OpsSuite comes into. They do a lot of this for me.
Give us an example of that. What would be something that you would want to track to?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's say for example, I'm sending out, I send out my Christmas in July little.
Just, hey, I'm here.
Christmas in July, little ornament, thanks for being my referral partner. How many people respond to that? And then, where did those conversations go? Did this lead to any referrals? So tracking everything that I do, if it's just if it's quarterly calls with my sphere, how many calls did I make? How many conversations did I lead to? How many referrals did I lead to? Right? So tracking everything down to the number so that we can take those numbers next year and say, hey, Luke, your sphere touches this year gave you 4 referrals, which is X% of your business, right? And then breaking down each source of lead generation to, hey, agent referrals was, right now it's like 90% of my business. Sphere referrals was 10%, military was 5%, whatever it might be. And seeing what's working and not working. And then whatever's working, pour into that. And then also tracking, who's pouring into me, right? From like my sphere of influence to agent referrals. Another thing Sarah taught me a lot about was, there's a book called The Pumpkin Plan by Mike, I forgot his last name.
Pumpkin Plan.
Read it. It's excellent. But the basis of the story is pour into the people that are going to pour into you, right? So I'm tracking each one of my referral partners, like how many referrals they've given me, how many times they're advocating for me on Facebook, who's really pouring into my life, right? And then those people that
your fans,
basically
your fans, your raving fans. Yeah.
I'm giving them like the VIP experience, right? And then you have like the top 20% and the rest of the 80%, right?
And now VIP experience, maybe, hey, they referred me one person, and all of a sudden, now they referred me a second. Maybe I need to take them to lunch.
Yeah.
Or send them a gift card, something of that nature, in the sense of pouring back into them.
Correct.
It could be simply giving them some attention by taking them to lunch or coffee, or just stopping by their office and telling them how much you appreciate them. Because that's really, would you agree, most referrals, people who are referring you, just like they want the feedback. They want the feedback from the person that they referred you to say, oh man, thank you for referring me to Luke. He's awesome. That's a high for them. Yeah. And then obviously you just simply giving them some attention in one way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like Sam's helped me create this system to where we're constantly doing that all the time. Every time I receive a referral, a handwritten note goes out to that person. Hey, thanks for the referral, even if they're not closed yet or anything like that. Once they close, a little gifts get sent to them. And of course, the more referrals they give me, the better that stuff gets, the more frequent the follow-ups come.
And just for the listeners, Luke is referring to Samantha Cox with Ops Suite.
Correct.
She ran operations for the Rocco team and then Atlantic Partners in general. Now she's got her own gig where she is giving you a complete operations staff behind the scenes, whether it's just a pay-for-play transaction coordinator or she's doing a lot more for you. She's doing marketing and other things for you. She'll even interview people for you, put them in your pipeline if you're trying to build an organization, whatever, it's looking to hire transaction coordinators or whatever. Sam is out there. If you need information, it's myopsuite.com. But feel free to reach out to Luke or I to put you in contact with Sam.
Yeah. That was a killer part of my business as well, just finding that leverage, you know.
We're going to talk about the leverage. I want to finish. So tracking, you gave an example, tracking where your leads are coming from. You know, put the energy, put your focus on giving those guys, the attention because they're feeding. But you're not giving up on that person because, you might go a few years before someone ever refers you.
Right.
But you got to keep touching them.
Yeah.
So you said you got maybe 700-800 people in your CRM right now.
Correct.
How often or what is your goal for the average person who may not have even sent you a referral yet that you might be reaching out to them through the course of the year, one way, shape, or form? How many times do you want to touch them?
Typically 36. 36. Yeah. That could be, it's a quarterly call. That's a pop by. That's a monthly email or a buy 2 times a month email, newsletter and things.
You're not popping by everybody.
No, I'm not popping by everybody.
Yeah.
This might be like a potential person that might give me a referral at some point. But yeah, I'm trying to touch every single person in my database 36 times in some way, shape,
and
or form.
you're doing that different ways. Obviously, I assume email is one.
Right. That's the easiest way. Yeah.
What do you think? When you look back at the tracking, whenever you do any of these activities, like you said, you just did a Christmas in July and sent everybody some tchotchke there. That kind of thing. Tracking what comes, the attention you get immediately after that goes out.
Right.
Is that something that a measure that you're looking at of what activity you did, and then all of a sudden you got a referral or a couple of referrals the following week because you just reached out and touched everybody?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're tracking that all the time. You know, and it's kind of hard to say. And I try to find the information. Like, let's say we send that out. We get a bunch of responses. Someone reached out to me to say, hey, by the way, I have a referral. I try to understand why. Like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a year. Like, where did this come from? And they'll say, oh, well, I got your card or whatever. I saw your newsletter and I thought of you. So I'm always trying to find like the source of why they actually reached out.
Right. So you can pour back into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, okay, this is working. Let's hit this hard. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm, year 2 as a solo agent now. I was with Sarah's team for 3 years. Now I'm year 2 as a solo agent. So I'm still like figuring it out, like what's working best. I have a good idea from working with Sarah's team, but what's working for me? What are people reacting to? What are they liking? What are they not liking?
Right.
Yeah.
Time blocking, CRM, tracking. Anything else we're putting on this list?
Oh man. Other than just having, I guess more time blocking, but just having like a rigorous, structured morning routine is probably one of the best things.
Well, I think the one thing we didn't work out is direct prospecting. We talked about the CRM and doing your subtle side touches, if you want to call it that. What are you doing? Are you doing a daily prospecting? And then how are you doing that? Are you making calls? What's going on there? So
like a right now lead generation, more or less.
Trying to acquire a new.
Yeah. So and then I'll get into a little story here. When I started with Sarah, of course,
facts tell, stories sell.
That's right. We had a 30-60-90, and part of this was you got to cold call however many calls a week. You have to lead gen for however many hours. You have to do this many open houses, this many door knocks. And I did that for about a year, and drilled it and closed a lot of business from that, but got to the point like, man, I really don't like doing this. This isn't very fun. And I came to Sarah and I told her that. She's like, well, this is how you get successful. And I was like, well, this sucks. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And she's like, okay, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to find a way to be successful and never have to make another cold call again. She's like, okay, show me how you do that. I'm like, okay, sounds good. That's kind of sparked like my attention to agent referrals. And I just started cold calling agents, which is still a cold call, but I'll cold call agents like New York, New Jersey, these feeder states, right? And started building that pipeline.
You can bullshit about real estate, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can relate with them. They can relate with me. Like, COVID's
You're not trying to sell them anything.
No, not at all. I was like, hey, I just want to be a resource to you. I just want to be a friend, And that kind of sparked that. And that's what I've drilled for the past really 4 years. And, some other big sources that like, Mega Camp, Family Reunion, I'll go to those and I'll have specific goals in mind. Like, hey, I want to put 100 people in the CRM. I want to have this many coffees, whatever it is. And I'll continue to follow up with those people. So most of my like daily lead generation is following up with people. To be honest.
So in your CRM, you have a separate category for real estate agents.
Yes.
Here around the country that you are also touching in some way on a regular basis.
Correct. So I have like, for example, I have an email, like a monthly email that goes out to my database, just like the Sphere, whoever else, past clients, leads. And then I have a monthly email specifically catered towards agents. Like, hey, this is what's working for me. This is how I'm feeling in the market. How's your market? And trying to give them some value in some way, shape, or form. But yeah. So
how is, you're not going to, that's not going to be your primary source, but I imagine it's given you a handful of deals in whatever the last year, several years.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you get this referral that, hey, I wasn't even working for that.
Yeah.
Someone just called me and say, hey, my sister's moving into your area. Can you go take care of her?
Yeah, and that's what's happening. That's what's kind of happening. It's kind of like it's just a snowball effect, right? It's like, well, I know you know this person who knows this person, and they said you're a great agent, so I want to refer you my mom. Like, okay. Don't know how that connection happened, but that sounds good to me.
Yeah, it's one out of the blue that you have not been working on, making a direct call or direct marketing to. It's just all of a sudden, hey, there's another deal next month.
Right. Those are the best ones.
Yeah. They're icing on the cake.
Correct.
And the icing is always the best part.
Yeah, it is. It is. No, that's been a cool thing to watch grow. And, of course, but it's so important to understand, like, you have to have the systems in place to continue to grow that and to continue to let that function. Like every time a referral, I get an agent referral, or even if I don't even receive the referral, that person's going in the database, they're going on a plan, OpSuite's putting together a little system to make sure that person feels like they're touched.
So just to kind of go back to the CRM part, your time blocking. You're time blocking every day to take 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, to update that CRM, because if we procrastinate, even like, hey, I'll update it every Friday.
It's going to take forever.
It doesn't, all of a sudden something comes up. All of a sudden someone wants to go see a house and you don't update it on Friday.
Yep. Typically from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. it's like that. It's like respond to the emails, put out the fires, update the CRM. And then 9 to 11 is typically follow up, get on the phone, do what you need to do.
Right.
Whatever,
And it's these little things. Again, anyone listening, and I know we've heard it. I'm old enough to read so many personal development books, and still, some of the things like, man, this guy saying it today. I've heard that for the last 30 years. Luke is telling us right now, at his young age, changes total life trajectory from the I don't know what I'm doing bartender to and soon to be dad to in the real estate business you can make good money.
Yeah. And
by just regimenting yourself, which you would do every day if you went into work for someone.
Right.
So I think Sarah, kind of the vision from the outside looking in, is Sarah kind of created that atmosphere that, hey, you're going to work because
it's a 9 to 5.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff that come out, I see these memes all the time, is obviously our education system is preparing. I think it was, I don't know if it was JD Rockefeller or something who, got with, we need to have national education and so forth, was to create more factory workers.
Right.
So if you're already used to working on the assembly line, you've created the assembly line for yourself.
Right.
Sarah showed you the assembly line. You needed these steps, and you're carrying that through and just taking that time. I got to do the CRM, so I need to tighten this bolt.
Right. Exactly.
And then you move on to the next part.
Right. It's doing the 20% every single day.
Yeah.
Right. And then the 80% will come.
And it starts to snowball.
Yeah.
Right. Now you got 700 people in there. You're reaching out to them. You're getting better, and you're tracking. I sent out this, I get a reaction. I sent out that, I don't get a reaction. Maybe I don't want to do that again.
Right.
And you're now just monitoring your business. Right. And I imagine, maybe you could take on some more clients, but I imagine, you're running pretty busy.
Yeah.
On the real things that everyone sees a real estate agent doing. Because all these are under the surface, under the waterline, right? The showing the houses, the negotiating the deals and so forth. You have a full day.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the most part. It's now to the point where that is such a well-oiled machine, the referral business, the sphere of referrals.
Never is. I don't know. Is there a utopia there? I don't know.
Maybe not. But now that I am to the point, I'm like, okay, like what's the next thing? Is it YouTube? Is it whatever it might be? We're kind of looking for that next thing to add to the business to keep feeding the fire a little bit. Because that's going to keep growing. The referrals are going to keep growing. That's tucked away. We got the systems for that.
Right.
What else can we add to keep feeding?
I think, it's funny you mentioned YouTube, and we talked a little bit yesterday at lunch. There's agents out there doing YouTube to attract clients. You were under the tutelage of Sarah Rocco, who was creating a team. And the knowledge and the actual credibility that you have having gone through that boot camp, if you want to call it that, and that regiment, would that be part of your focus? Do you want to build a team and then put them under Luke's version of this regiment of his boot camp, and creating the training video? I mean, the training videos right now are a big thing. I see it advertised all the time. They're always reaching out to podcasters to, hey, you should have some sort of course or whatever.
Right.
You could create a course and then, get behind it. And then obviously you've had credibility. People are going to want to work with you, whether it's here locally or expand. I don't know. It was just an idea that just came to my head when you said that.
Yeah.
Creating the videos.
That's something I get asked a lot. And I have a lot of agents like, are you going to build a team? Are you going to build a team? If you want to build a team, I'll join. I'm like, okay. I don't think I would ever want to run like a big Sarah or Christina Welch type team. I don't think it's where my heart lies. My heart lies with my family, and that's where I want to put most of my time, right?
Yeah.
I do, my big why is to impact lives, right? That's what I want to do. I want to impact lives, whatever that looks like, right? I mean, the dream would be to bring on, like I think I told you, it's like maybe 1, maybe 2, 3 agents, have a big admin team.
Or you're very picky.
Yeah.
And you only hire certain, or you only bring on so many green agents at a time, because I would think everyone would agree they drain the most of you.
Absolutely.
So you get 2 up and running, and they're mostly on their own.
Right.
They're still under your tutelage, and then you can bring on 2 more versus just hiring every month.
Yeah, there's no way I would do that.
Yeah.
There's no way I would do that. Yeah, it would definitely be very, and that's something I also appreciate about Sarah's team. Like, the interview process was rigorous. Even just that was 7 steps. I mean, it was no joke, and she did not take someone that wasn't going to be even a chance that wasn't going to be a good fit. So yeah, I'd be extremely selective, and I don't know. I'm a pretty laid back guy, so I don't think it'd be quite as intense as Sarah Rocco boot camp,
Well, she had the mind control over you anyway.
Oh man, she's like, don't you want this? I'm like, yes, please. No, I think I think I'll be a little more loose. I'm like, hey, this is your business, run it how you will. But if you want to work with me, this is how you get from point A to point B. If you can't do that, then this is not going to be a good fit, right?
Team.
Yeah.
We talked, there's different types of teams, and everyone takes on the personality. But for an agent out there, again, who may not be doing where they want to, or maybe, like I said, they got to the wrong brokerage, not really giving the support or whatever. Keller Williams has a lot of teams. A new agent can plug in. But because these teams are also run differently, if someone wants to say, yeah, I think I really need a team because I just really don't have my arms fully around the real estate business. I want to do more, but I need the confidence. I need the support. I need more of a regular holding accountability type of thing. What kind of questions do you think they should be asking as they go out and they talk to these different team leaders, or how important is for them to talk to the team leader, but then you also need to go and talk to somebody on the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us some of the things that they would want to ask and dig in to see what matches their person, their work ethic, personality.
Well, like you said, I mean, it all depends on who this person is, right? But I mean, that's what you got to ask is, what's expected. I mean, is there a 30, 60, 90? Am I expected to hit a certain amount of numbers per quarter or per month? What is the, exiting contract to look like,
And the worst thing is they just say, hey, the team's not working out. You need to go out on your own. You can go join another team.
Right.
So it's not like you're fired and out. You're no different than where you're at. It's not like you're losing benefits or something.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, I mean, it all depends on the person, but I mean, the main things you need to know are like, what is expected of you? How much are you expected to be in the office? Is there certain numbers you're supposed to hit? Because I mean, there's, like you said, there's so many different teams, and they're run so a little more tightly and a little more loosely, right? So it all depends on who you are and what kind of business you're looking for. Do you want a little more I hate to say freedom. That's kind of what it feels like sometimes, a little more freedom to do whatever you want, or are you looking for a high level of accountability and someone that's really going to push you to do what you need to do. So.
And the accountability piece, like I said, you know, DJ and Lindsay, I think they have a very structured environment. I think Luke Newcomer has a version of that, but a little differently because they're big lead by people. You know, do you need that regiment that says, hey, you're in here at 9 o'clock with everybody else, and you know, we're having a sales meeting and you need to be there and be attentive.
Right.
Of course, that does fall back a little bit on the leadership, because I tell you, there's some people in this town that don't know how to have a sales meeting, or they call a sales meeting to say they had a sales meeting. Please don't waste my time.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
You got to have the leadership part, which we talked a little bit about. You're considering going into it. You got a couple guys working with you, but I'm sure you saw people roll in and out of Sarah's team and other teams at Keller Williams Atlantic Partners, because maybe they just didn't see the value there, or the value wasn't a match to them. What they were getting might have been value to you, but not necessarily value to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was a real estate, productivity coach for Keller Williams for like 11 months, and that was one of my biggest ahas. It's like every single person takes different types of coaching. It's just like a client, right? Every listing appointment is going to look different. Every buyer appointment will look different. Same thing with agents. Everybody's coached differently. Not everybody, and I had to kind of teach Sarah that in a way. It's like, hey, you can't put everybody in the fire like you do to me, right? Some people need a little more compassion, need a little more empathy, things like that. So it depends so much on who you are and what works best for you. That worked for me because I came from college athletics. I was used to getting screamed at every day and being forced to bear crawl a mile and things like that. Yeah. So this was nothing for me.
And you did it.
Yeah, exactly.
I always go back on the thing. I'm a generation in front of you. When I grew up, if someone was in your face, it's because they cared.
Exactly.
Now, there's a lot of young people, if someone's in your face, they think they're trying to demean you. No, trust me, they wouldn't bother getting in your face. Right. It's still actually they're in your face because they do care.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's because they love you and they want you to be successful.
Yeah. They see more in you than you see in yourself, which is very common.
Yeah. And that was a hard thing about being a coach. It's like, if someone would tell me I want to make this much money in this year, and they would just never follow through. And I was like, well, you obviously don't want that because you're never here. You're never showing up. You're never doing what I need you to do.
Right.
So
if you're listening out there and you are an agent who maybe you've been doing this 2 or 3 years and you're just kind of treading along and you just know you can do more, to reach out to you, Luke, to reach out to Luke, send him an email, text him, whatever, call him and say, hey, can I sit down? Is a team for me?
Right.
And because you've been enough at Atlantic Partners in around town, a lot of the teams. Could a team move you? Even though you've been here 2 or 3 years and you think you've got a grasp of what's going on in real estate, you don't.
Yeah.
And maybe that team, and taking a little less cut of the commission, call it that, for a little bit, basically investing in yourself a little bit, to then branch out in a year or two now with a whole different mindset, whole different work ethic, or we all talk about time blocking and everything else, but did you actually have someone hey, 6 o'clock on Sunday evening, you need to have that scheduled to me?
Yeah, I mean, and there are people that if you're crazy disciplined and you just have this drive and you can do it, that's awesome. But I have only seen a handful of people that can do it themselves.
Right.
I think it is a benefit to probably 95% of agents to join a team for at least a year and get hyper intensive training about what actually ticks and what makes this business work.
Did Sarah not even we talk about the work ethic and those things like that, but also expanding your horizons on real estate in general. It's not just single family homes and a planned urban development.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things. There's so many different areas of real estate that you can get into, and being around someone who has that experience 5 or 10 years out in front of you, and obviously has a huge, obviously shows that they care and they see more in you that they want you to be as good as they are. Because that's the true test. That's John Maxwell, but that is the true test of a true leader, is creating other leaders, right? Yeah. Or creating other great salespeople, if you want to go out that way.
And I would always joke with her. I'm like, Sarah, because she didn't have a crazy high turnover rate, but all of her best agents would leave. Me, Russell, Amanda Trahan was there for a while, you know, and I was like, you got a problem, Sarah.
Would you knock on Trahan's door? I was trying to have her on a year ago, and well, she wanted to be on, and then I had some things happen, and I postponed the show. I went down for a couple of months, and then when I got back in, I've been reaching back out to her to get her on, and then she has been, now she's giving me the Heisman. So
she's in Mexico. I don't know.
Oh, is that right? I did see some Facebook stuff on there. Yeah. But when she gets back in town,
I'll tell her. I'll give the plug. But yeah, I would tell Sarah, I'm like, you know, your problem is like, you coach agents too well. They're all like leaders now. You know, Russell's a team leader. You know, Amanda was a team leader. She's director of production now. I was the PC, and now I'm running sort of my own team. I was like, you know, you got a disease. You keep making too many leaders. You know, you got to cut it back. But that's truly, I mean, if I ever did start a team, that would be the dream, is to, you know, build these people up, give them. You know, one of the other important things is giving them that vision. I never had the vision of where I am today. I wouldn't have that without Sarah. I never thought I could do this. I never thought I could be in this position at this young of an age. And she was the one that's like, hey, this is actually attainable. So giving a person that vision, growing them to that point and letting them go do the thing, that's the dream.
Do you think a lot of agents, no matter what their age is, they really, I really believe they are only looking out 60, 90 days. You know, the things that you were doing in the CRM, you're building up a snowball. You know, maybe the snowball starts to produce at 6 months. Maybe it's 12. Maybe it's 3 years. We don't know. To where all of a sudden the snowball is just rolling.
Right.
And it's giving you off more referrals than you can handle in the course of a month and that sort of thing. That's long-term vision. Like, hey, I'm doing real estate and I'm going to be here 10 years from now, so I need to start doing my CRM. So hopefully year 5 to 10 is real easy for me.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And yeah, I think I tell agents this a lot too. I'm like, it's really, really important to focus on the day-to-day and like making the decision every day to be successful. But you have to have that vision in mind. You have to already be manifesting, like, I'm in it for the long run. I'm going to be here in 10 years. Yeah. I'll be damned if I'm not, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So having that, you know, mentor or so forth that has that forward-looking vision, because as a new agent, you're
just trying to make money.
Yeah.
You're trying to survive.
I mean, you're a young guy. You got a baby on the way. You're just trying to get some houses closed. Hopefully you have a little bit of a savings account.
Yeah.
Right?
You're just scraping and clawing. But I will say, once you flip that mindset a little bit, it's like, okay, I have a little bit of income. I'm paying the bills. I'm feeding my family. Like, let's flip this to not just like how many checks I can make and paycheck to paycheck to like how can I grow this thing, and whose life
how can you put it into the next gear, right?
Exactly.
How can you go, you know,
exactly go to E to P, you know, don't just scrape and claw for everything that you can get. Look for the long run, you know.
Going back to Ops Suite. All right, so you're with the Rocco team. You've got this level of production. What makes you decide to form Christmas Homes?
So that's a good question. So there's a little bit of buffer in between Christmas Homes and Rocco Group, right? So working with the Rocco Group, putting in a lot of hours, closing anywhere from 50 to 60 deals a year, which is a blessing. It's awesome. Huge, yeah. But, you know, I like I said, my big why is like, I want to impact people at a high level. And I didn't feel like I was doing that anymore with the Rocco Group. I loved it. I loved the team. I loved the business. I loved everything about it. But I saw
impact your customers, or what do you, when you say impact people, what's is there an avatar?
Yeah, right. I think it's general. I was like, how, with my time that I have on this earth, how can I most impact people positively and change their lives truly? People in general. Okay.
I
guess you keep it a real estate, right?
Yeah,
Let's keep it in the scope of real estate, because I don't want to get too vague. So I saw a position open up for a productivity coach, and I was like, dang, man, that's enticing. So I reach out to our OP. I was like, what does this look like? And she's like, let's talk about it. So we talk about it and everything. And, you know, it looked perfect. I was like, man, I can coach agents. I can give them the vision. I can give them a life.
Because you got all this stuff that you've been learning with Sarah, just building up in your brain. Yes. You want to share it, which a lot of top people do. Yes. So I always say, reach out to these top people, because they do want to pour into you. They want to tell you how they did it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity. So I reach out to my OP. We have the conversations. And at that point, you know, I prayed about it, talked to my other mentors and things like that. Okay, this is the right option. So I leave the Rocco Group, which is really, really tough decision. And I still love them, have a great relationship with them, and start as a PC with Atlantic Partners. And I was between Atlantic Beach and Keller Williams Southside. You know, at this point, I am going to take a pay cut, but there's a potential to grow.
You're still producing yourself.
Still producing them myself a little bit on the side, right? But a pretty much my entire database when I left the Rocco group, except for my sphere of influence. So anybody past client that I got from them, anything like that I can no longer market to them, right? So I was ready to take that kind of sacrifice to start this journey. So I started as a PC and I worked that for about 11 months, and it was an awesome experience. But working as leadership in a real estate office is kind of like working for the U.S. government. It's really, really hard. There's not a lot of benefits, and you don't get paid very much. So my own business on the side, the referral partnerships and things like that, started growing and growing and growing. My PC program, productivity program, started growing and growing and growing. So it got to the point where I couldn't service both.
You were starting to get popular with the agents who wanted your help. I mean, because when you have a large operation like Atlantic Partners is, I don't know how many agents all Atlantic Partners.
I think it's like 700.
Yeah. So is working with a productivity coach just available to them and they could call up on it, or you guys like to reach out to people who aren't doing anything and say, hey, you need to.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of both. So it depends. If it's a brand new green agent, never been in production, they're required to work with a productivity coach and go through what we call the Ignite program and work with the PC for
especially if they're not with a team.
Correct. Yeah, you had to, because we didn't want these people going out and messing things up for the
Keller Williams. Yeah.
Right. So they had to, and then people that weren't really producing, they did like 2 deals a year. We'd reach out to them and say, hey, come in, let's talk, and try to get the fire in them. And if they really just weren't producing, not doing anything, like, hey, I just want to go in referral status, we would make that, kind of push them along that way, right? So at the height of it, I had like 72 agents that I was coaching at one time, which was insane. It took a lot of my time, and the contract questions that I would get every single day and day out. And I got to the point where I was kind of ruthless because they would, text me at 8 p.m. on a Friday every time, like, Luke, I'm writing a contract, what do I do? And I'm like, were you in class yesterday? No. I'm like, all right, I'll talk to you on Monday. And, I kind of put them to the fire because, they had to do what they did.
Because, when you say that, my immediate thought is that the best time usage of a productivity coach?
No, not at
all. There's a broker involved here, or I imagine at Keller Williams you have a resource number, right, that has people that will I know some brokerages have that number that they can call with all wide variety of questions. They're just stuck on some, and someone's monitoring that phone at any given time.
Typically. And so we started to systemize that and make that a lot better. And also it was too much. Like one person, unless you had like junior coaches or something, you can't coach 75 agents at a high level. You just can't as one person. At least I couldn't. Getting back to it, so PC program's growing. My own business starts growing. I start doing like 2 to 3 deals a month, and it starts building and building and building. So at some point, I had to sit down.
Just through personal, your sphere of influence,
and agent referrals.
your own, okay.
Yeah. And not lead genning, not sending out monthly emails, just like people.
You're not sitting there cold calling for 2 hours in the morning.
Doing lead gen maybe twice a week and touching like my core group of agent referral partners that I held on to, right? So start producing more and more, and eventually just got to the point where I had to sit down. My wife came to me. She's like, "You're working like 100 hours a week, and I can like see it in your eyes. Like, you got to stop this." And I was like, "Okay." So sat down with her, prayed about it, thought about it again, sought mentorship and things like that, and then ultimately looking at my 5 to 10 year goals, like what makes sense for myself and my family.
Right.
That's what comes first. What does God want me to do? What makes sense? And ultimately, my own business made more sense than sticking with the PC program.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it helped you. You got enough experience that if you are going to grow a team, some of the things that you have to be involved in. Like, and you're that Friday night call about the contract. If you're the team leader, unfortunately, you're going to have to answer that question.
I'm cool with it. If it's my own team, I feel a little more comfortable with it. So.
Do you find an agent like that? Is it because they're working part-time, or they're just not putting forth the effort to go and grab, like, obviously right now with the new contract and everything going on, there's all sorts of education going on about the contract, and you need to be going to more than one class.
Right.
Don't go, hey, I went to Landmark, boom, check. No, I'd go to William Lee's doing it over there. I know he's got one going on next month. You need to be going to NEFAR. You need to be, whoever else is offering it, and taking it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And I don't think if there's any one thing that everyone says you need to get educated on, that's the contract and being able to take it, turn it around, flip it to the other person, and read it upside down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it depends. It was usually a motivation thing, right? Because like I said earlier, I'd have my initial meetings with them, like, what kind of production, what are your financial goals? And they would give me this financial goal. I want to make $100K, $200K my first year, and then they just wouldn't show up. But typically, these people that wouldn't show up, they had nothing pushing them. They were, freshly graduated. It was usually younger people, freshly graduated.
They don't even know what $100,000 or $200,000 is.
No idea. They're freshly graduated, kind of either like living off their parents' dime or whatever. They had no reason they had to do something. You know, and typically the people that were most successful that I coached were like, it was like the mom that had been a mom for 20 years, and this was going to be her thing. There's
a lot of great agents in town that I've had on this show that are just in that category.
Yes. And they would crush, and they were so motivated, and they're always there, and they're always asking the right questions. Those are my best coaching clients ever. It was like the people my age that didn't really, they were like bartending, and they didn't have any kids. They had nothing pushing them. So that, and I started to pick up on that, the motivation, and I would start to ask people hard questions in our initial meetings, like, are you willing to do these items that I'm laying out in front of you? It's like, is this something you're actually going to do? And a lot of times we're like, probably not. I'm like, okay, this probably isn't a good fit. There's a bunch of other brokerages.
I think if I was to start a real estate team and I could hand pick anybody I want, I'd be after like a Kelly Bello. The single mom with the kids. They're killers.
Yeah, has to do it. You have no other option. And most people don't have that. I think that's why most people don't make it. They don't have that. This is it. And you don't have a plan B. You don't have a plan C. This is all you have, So
I think also, would you agree, real estate is because everyone does it differently. We took 5 agents. No one is doing it exactly the same. And now you take 12,000 of it, and obviously we know so many are not actually producing. But only what was the statistic? 50% last year sold more than 2 homes or something. I don't know, whatever it was. Yeah. But everyone does it a little different. They prospect differently. They get their leads differently. This kind of thing, and you have to have that entrepreneurial kind of curiosity. You got to be willing to walk into rooms that you don't know what's behind the door, so to speak, and not talking like literally in a house, but in your business. Because you can do it so many different ways that you have to discover what is your way. Right. Which has been, a lot of agents have mentioned that recently. You got to do it your way. Right.
What's the one thing that you like to do and that you're good at that's going to boost the business? And it took me a long time to find that, at least about a year.
What is it? What do you feel is your, why you wake up in the morning like, oh, I get to go do this because you're passionate. I'm passionate about this podcast. What is there's something that creates the passion in you to like keep driving forward. Like, I want the next deal. What is it for you?
Oh man, that's a good question. I mean, getting outside of real estate, probably the big why is like, my family will have every opportunity that they can get, right? And that kind of drives everything. Like, my daughter's never going to hear, we can't afford that. We can't afford this opportunity. We can't do this because, we don't have the money. So that's the main driver. And of course, after that. Now
you start to realize that in your success. Lot at the beginning, you really didn't think about that, but now you've got I've got an 11-year-old and 14-year-old. They're both very active in doing the sports. My daughter's in drama, and everything has a cost to it.
Right. Absolutely.
It's like, do you want to do that? You can put forth the effort. Okay. It's not, can we afford it when I do it? We're going to pay for it, but are you going to?
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to work.
The cost is not an option.
Right.
That's the high is that you get to write the check or give them the credit card and not worry about it, and you're paying the bill off every month.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So that's the main driver, and of course, like my peers and family too. I want to give them opportunities that they would never have dreamed of having, and if that's like from a financial standpoint or just like a business coaching standpoint, whatever that looks like.
Right.
That's what drives me every single day is giving people that sort of opportunity, and then just impacting my kids' lives so they can go out and impact other people's lives. Right.
You mentioned a few minutes ago one of the things that you were doing the coaching. What did you got? Productivity coach. You're doing, but your business kept growing over here. There was something you were doing. What is it you think, and it might come natural to you? Maybe you're just a popular guy and everybody wants to hang out with. I don't know. What is it that you think kept that business growing, even though you weren't focused on it as much as you are today. And it's growing much faster because you're focused on it. But even when you weren't focused on it, it was still growing. Why?
Yeah, I think in any business, there's all sorts of people, right? And another thing, taught by Sarah and my parents, instilled this in me, be as authentic and genuine as you can be, right? At the end of the day, just be yourself. Right. So that's what I try to do every single day. I don't put on a face for anybody. So when I'm going to like mega camp and family reunion, that's who I try to find. I try to find the people that are truly authentic, genuine people that I can jive with and that I want to pour into and they want to pour into me. And that our values and morals line up and things like that. Because you'll go to these things and you meet someone and you're like, you're a robot, man. You're not a real person. So really trying to just come from like who I am and how I was raised and being a real person. That's what I believe is the reason people kept following up with me. And I did keep following up with like that core group of agents that I had that I wanted to pour into, that were genuine people that I really loved and loved as friends. I continued to talk to them. Because
that was the easy thing while you're doing the coaching, because they're out there and you're entering their sphere of influence.
Yeah, correct.
And we're in Northeast Florida.
Yeah.
People are moving here.
Yeah.
Those New Yorkers, they don't have so much new coming in.
Right.
They have a lot of people going out, so maybe they're listing houses.
Right.
They need to add value to that person leaving.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And they wanted a genuine person to do it.
Right.
And it's a terrible joke, but I have that core group of buddies at family reunion, and I would talk to someone. I'm like, man, that person's just an NPC, and there's like a computer game. You get that vibe from some people, and that's like the opposite that I'm going for. I just want to be me. And
one of the things I think is, whether it's, I mentioned Kim Perrell all the time, business leader. We've heard it 1,000 other places. Stop worrying about what other people think about you.
Absolutely.
We battle that every day, though. And the reason why people keep saying it, and different people are saying it all the time, because we are constantly, everyone is worried about, how they're being judged.
Or trying to be someone else.
Right.
I remember Sarah trained me on taking listings, and we would rep listing appointments again and again and again. And she went out of town or something, and Sam's like, all right, you gotta do a mock listing appointment with me. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. So I get into it. And I get like halfway in, and Sam's like, Luke, you got to stop. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, you're being an a-hole. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're acting like Sarah. Like, just act like people want to work with Luke because they want to work with Luke. They don't want to work with, they don't want to work with Sarah. They want to work with you. And I was like, all right, sounds good. I can do that. And that was a huge aha for me. It's like people want to work with me and want to be my referral partner because they want to work with me, not with rendition of Sarah or whoever else that mentored me.
Right. Sarah impacted the people. Her business came from people who saw her.
Yeah.
But you're not 5'8" blonde. That
I'm 6'7" guy last time Christmas.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. That is a common theme with the top agents, and everyone has said the authenticity of it. Which since you mentioned listing appointments, and we'll kind of close with this last chapter here, kind of talking about for the agents that are out there, what are you actually doing now? We got the buyer's agreement. I think that's something you guys have been doing for a while.
Yes.
So let's talk about the buyer's agreement, since that's a subject to a lot of people going to these classes and doing it. But this is something you've been doing for a while.
Yeah.
Or is there really anything in your repertoire that you're changing because of this NAR settlement or anything that they're telling you guys need to do? Or you pretty much been doing it all along?
I won't, again, not perfect. Things kind of start to slack here and there when you're not set to a standard, right? So honestly, people hate this whole NAR thing. I think there's going to be a lot of positivity that comes through it. I think it's going to put people in check, right? So for me alone, it's like, wow, I have to start thinking again about every single little thing and how I'm presenting compensation for a buyer's broker and things like that. And, I'd still continue to sign buyer agreements, but, revamping that conversation with people and getting it very, very in check. Because, yes, I do it, but I'm not on point with it like I'm under the gun under Sarah Rocco, right? It's going to be something that I'm used to, and it's the conversations that I was taught to have from the beginning of real estate. And that's it's a huge blessing for me because, sellers have always had the choice to pay whoever they want to pay, right? I've always had that conversation with them. I've always made every single buyer that I work with sign a buyer-broker agreement, because why would I work with someone that's not committed to me?
Right.
Right? So nothing's really changed. It really just starts to fine tune everything, and and just puts me in check. I mean, holds me accountable to what I'm telling people. Because a lot of times you just get into conversations, things start flowing, and you say something like, "Ooh, I probably shouldn't say that anymore."
Yeah.
So honestly, I think
or how you say it.
Yeah, I think it's just going to make us more professional and make us do our
Well,
job
for those agents out there that are listening, might be struggling a little bit on, I think if anyone's got a anxiety about it, it's the questions that may be asked. But I think the reality is, you and I are in the business, so we know somewhat know what's going on. We see articles. We pay attention to those things.
Sure.
The average person who's buying and selling a home is not actually paying attention to those things until they're ready to buy or sell a home. And then it's not like they are already got it on their Instagram feed to get real estate information. It's not going to come to them so easily. They're going to dig to find some of this stuff. Now, somebody, hey, my brother-in-law heard this, blah, blah, blah. There's always that kind of thing. But the anxiety comes from answering that question.
Right.
Well, what about the commission? Right. And what are you talking about? I know you're mentoring people. People probably ask you, mm-hmm. How are in your mind, how are you going in and, do you have a prepped answer? Mm-hmm. Or I think the intelligent thing is obviously have several different ways, because it's how it's asked, right? We don't know the context by which it's asked, right? We don't know that in training. Right. Just all of a sudden this client asks you, whether it's a buyer or seller, asks you about the commission. And it's how you answer that is going to either, like, boom, you're over the other side of the fence and now you're on the run, or you're going to run into the fence.
Yeah. And I think you got to break it down from personality type, right? Mm. Are they D, I, S, or C? Talking about the DISC personality test, right? Because they're going to ask it different ways. So yes, I do have a prepped answer for each personality and what I'm going to say. But essentially, most of it comes back to, show your value in your listing appointment, show everything that you do. Mm. And honestly, the question comes back to, have I shown you something today that makes you think you shouldn't, provide 3% to us and 3% to a buyer broker, right? Have I showed you anything today that takes away from that? And a lot of the times it kind of puts them to the fire and like, well, no, you've shown me more than any agent has ever shown me in a listing appointment. So I think, Sarah Cavanaugh, I went to one of her listing classes, and something I say all the time now, like, hey, this is the price of excellence, right? Of course, it's your choice at the end of the day. We got to throw that in there. But this is the price of excellence, right? This is the price of value. Yeah.
I think it's something that's very important right now, that the collateral damage, if it wasn't the direct, I think the DOJ, it's direct, but the lawsuit was a money grab. Mm-hmm. So the settlement, and it's devalued the agents. You get people talking trash on, I think obviously we know there's some people out there just on social media. Yeah. They want to be influencers. So they're going to talk trash because then they get clicks, and then hopefully, Instagram starts paying them or something, right? I mean, that's just, but unfortunately it has that collateral damage that people are actually hearing them literally on there and devalue the agent. Mm-hmm. That how important it is for the agent to go in now, being knowledgeable, being ready to answer the question coming from a DISC, right? Yeah. Whatever the personality and however they ask. Yeah. And a lot of times, I think you've been in sales long enough, and I've been in sales for 30 years. Sometimes the question is just asked to see how you're going to answer. It's not a judgment of whether or not they're going to work with you. Yeah. They just want to see how you answer the question.
Right. And 90% of the time, they don't even ask.
Yeah.
If you show them that you're so much, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but you're so much better than any agent they've ever worked with, they're not even going to ask, right? So if you are prep yourself enough and you're knowledgeable enough and you know the market well enough and you're confident enough, they're usually not even going to ask you.
Yeah.
It's
the father told them to ask you why. A lot of times why they bring it up, and they don't even know really what the right answer is supposed to be. Right. But they told their father-in-law, whatever. Oh, yeah, we asked him about that, and he covered it. Okay,
right. But it is important to script these things.
Yeah.
Email me, text me, like I'll script with you. Like you have to get used to having these conversations.
How to answer it in several different ways, depending on the context of it. Yes. You mentioned briefly there the listing appointment and how, because I think this comes down to the listing agents of whether or not they're going to make life easier for people, or you're going to have these greedy listing agents that are just in there. Oh no, you just got to pay me 2-3%, and not even mention the buyer's agent, and then it becomes a conflict during the process of who's paying. That whole thing. If the listing agent is solid, they're going to get
they will get the
that 2.5%, 3%, whatever
yes.
it is for the buyer's agent,
yes.
because if they're professional.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I personally, this is just me, I'm not going to take a listing if they're not going to pay a buyer broker agreement. I don't care if it's $2 million. I don't care if it's 500, 100,000. I'm not going to take it.
And that's, everyone should have that attitude, because personally, I mean, if you're that guy that's going out there getting these listing appointments, yeah. and not building it in, the other agents are going to start talking trash about you.
You're going to end up
to
on
the point,
wall, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and they're going to see that Johnny doesn't negotiate buyer's commission on his listings agent, and no one will be going to your house.
Johnny's average days on market just went up 100. So, yeah, seriously. Yeah. I mean, you're going to make a bad rep for yourself, and you just got to have the right conversations.
And it's not the greed. The buyer should be paying their buyer's agent. They are paying their buyer's agent. Just put it into the price and make. And that's the way it's always been.
Yeah.
Because if you were not asking to discount the price because you weren't represented as a buyer, right. that was your problem.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
So as it comes clean, anything else you'd like to add?
I think I'm good, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
that was great.
Again, call out to Samantha at Op Suite.
Yes.
Actually, that was the
last.
Did we not dwell? How has it? Mm-hmm. And whether they use Op Suite or not, I highly recommend Sam. I just think what she's got going on there to be that one-stop shop, basically, as your operations. Whether you're a solo agent or you got a small team, or you got, she's working with larger teams too, in providing that operations behind the scenes, professional operations. And how does that change your business to allow you to keep doing the forward focusing? Because you have her she's doing marketing stuff for you. So tell us some of the stuff that she's doing for you.
And I got into that. I left PC and went to a full-time agent. Got to the point we're doing 4 to 6 transactions a month. I'm like, okay, I at least need a TC for this, right? So I went through a couple of TCs, and on the Rocco group, we had an amazing TC named Dominique, and she was on it. It's the best TC I've ever had. I was like, I couldn't find Dominique again. So Sam decides, hey, I'm going to start this operations company. I'm like, yes, finally, let's go. So she starts Op Suite, and I immediately met with her. And pretty much what she took off my plate was my bookkeeping. A lot of agents, I know this is for me, I'm a really good agent. I'm not very organized.
You're a male.
Exactly. I'm a lot better than I was. I'm getting there. So she took that off my plate for me. TC work, database management, referral partnership management, business planning, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, any new hires I want to make. And then marketing as well. But we actually subcontract marketing kind of through Saylor and Company with Emily Engel, who does like my monthly newsletter.
She's going to be on Tuesday.
Let's go.
Yeah,
She's
Sam.
awesome.
Sam referred her over because that's another area of, having someone solid behind the scenes that fits your budget, that giving you the consistent marketing.
Yeah. But once I picked that up, and not only did it give me time to how it's not affected my business, give me time to I get to spend an hour a day extra with my daughter and my wife. I get to do the things that really are important to me, the things that I love this business, but I'll take my family over it every day of the week, so I get to pour into my family more. But literally my business doubled after I brought them on. Last year I closed around 13.5 million. This year I'm on track to close anywhere from 25 to 30 million, So bringing them on gave me the time to pour into my family and, just continue to grow the business. And honestly, having a mind behind it all, like Sam, helps in so many ways. There's so many things that I would have never thought of. I'm not an operations person. That she thought of. She's like, how about we just do this? I'm like, well, dang, that was the easiest thing in the world, but it gives me so much more time to pour back into my people. So changed my life. Literally, they've changed my life. So
the return on investment for you is obviously huge.
It's insane,
literally doubling your business and giving you the peace of mind, which that's priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Really just organize my business. It actually has structure now. It's systematic. It's a game changer. I advise it. If you're a new agent, at least hire them as a TC. At least hire them as a TC. If you have a team, she has the best systems that I've ever seen out of any team that I've talked to. So yeah, it's been great.
That's a huge endorsement. We're going to have to cut this last 2.5, 3 minutes right there of you just endorsing my ops suite.
Yeah,
but that is a big thing out there. I think it's, and there's so many agents that are doing well because they're good and they have credibility, influence, all those things that you want as a real estate agent. But then there's this other stuff you got to do.
Yes.
It's your homework.
The boring stuff.
Well, if you can have someone do your homework.
Right.
You can be in the classroom every day and absorbing all the things that you need to do, which my analogy is you could be forward facing and be spending more time with your customers, spending more time with your wife and your kids and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, I see so many agents that are like year 10 and they're still doing 30 transactions a year, 20 transactions a year. And they've been doing that for 5 years.
And that's great.
And if you're fine,
could they do 40?
Yeah, exactly.
Could they do 50?
But do you want to grow? If you want to grow, then this is how you do it.
Yeah.
This is how you scale, So
100%. I don't think there's, that we know, that 20 to 30 transactions, which is somewhere between, depending on what area of towns you're working at, price point could be 5 to 10 million. Yeah. And that's, and every agent I've talked to that's hit that lid that's like totally maxed out, that's doing it themselves, it's in that 9, 10 million. They are just being pulled every which way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine doing 30 transactions a year and having to process every transaction through it. There's no way. There's no way.
Well, I think you and I are, I think the same way. We get our thrill in, like I said, working with the client, helping, doing those things. And in case, everything that everyone sees a real estate agent doing, you do. But then there's all the behind the scenes, which you can do, but there actually is people like Samantha and her team that are actually better at it that make you even look better.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's find all the things you don't want to do, give it to them. I'm guaranteed they're gonna be better at it. And like you said, it's gonna make you look a lot better.
Hopefully they like doing it, and you get to do more of what you like to do.
Literally, all my reviews that I get on Google, people are like, Luke and Lydia were the best team ever. And I'm like, let's go. So yeah, they're awesome. They've been great.
It makes you look bigger than you are.
Yes.
You probably could hire somebody full time to do that, but why do that? You've got someone being managed under someone who's really good, and she's hiring and has the quality people. Like I said, I think with the other complaint I heard, so and so did it and they had bad transaction coordinators, which I think you mentioned you've had some. Not so good transaction.
Not bad. Just not where I need to be.
Right.
Not quite on the level that I need to be. They were great people, great experiences, but I knew what.
Let Sam take care of that for you. Let Sam give you the best transaction coordinator. Yes. And I imagine she probably takes the feedback from her agents, on who's working with them. Just a great business, great resource for every agent in town.
Absolutely.
Luke, appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Great show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.